Thank you for the opportunity to present our work. Today, I will be discussing a study that examines the challenges of integrating communication skills in secondary level technical and vocational education and training, or TVET classrooms. Although communication skills are frequently emphasized in TVET policies and curriculum documents, their classroom implementation remains complex. Teachers are expected to integrate communication into technically focused subjects, often with limited time, unclear assessment guidance, and students who enter TVET with diverse learning needs and academic backgrounds. At the same time, communication is often perceived as secondary to technical competence, both by learners and by wider society. These tensions create a gap between what policy intends and what teachers are able to implement in practice. Rather than assuming that communication skills are absent or neglected, this study asks a different question. What makes communication skills integration difficult in real TVET classrooms? By focusing on challenges rather than deficits, the study aims to better understand the everyday realities faced by teachers and education officers who are responsible for translating policy aspirations into classroom practice. TVET plays a central role in Malaysia's workforce development strategy. National policies position TVET as a key pathway for producing industry-ready graduates, improving employability, and reducing reliance on foreign labor. However, while policy documents strongly emphasize employability and transversal skills, classroom implementation is far less straightforward. Teachers often experience tension between policy expectations and what is feasible within real classrooms. This study begins from that tension rather than from policy ideals. From an employer perspective, communication skills are essential throughout the employment cycle. Graduates are expected to communicate clearly during interviews, coordinate with colleagues, explain technical procedures, and document work processes accurately. In many vocational sectors, communication is also directly linked to safety, service quality, and regulatory compliance. This means communication is not an optional soft skill, but a functional vocational competence embedded in everyday work practices. Despite this recognition, empirical studies consistently show that communication competence remains a concern among TVET graduates. Employers often acknowledge strong technical skills, but report weaknesses in clarity of expression, confidence, and situational appropriateness. These recurring concerns suggest that communication challenges are systemic rather than isolated. This raises important questions about how communication skills are being integrated within TVET programs, particularly at the classroom level. Much existing research focuses on employer expectations or graduate outcomes, with less attention given to classroom level implementation. Secondary level TVET classrooms, in particular, remain underexplored, even though this is where foundational vocational and communicative identities are formed. Therefore, the objective of this study is to identify challenges in integrating communication skills in secondary level TVET classrooms based on the perspectives of teachers and state education officers. The study adopted a qualitative research design using semi-structured interviews. Participants included language teachers, technical teachers, and state education officers. This multi-informant approach allowed us to capture complementary perspectives across classroom and administrative levels, providing a more comprehensive understanding of how communication skills integration is experienced in practice. Interview data were analyzed using reflexive thematic analysis, Themes were developed iteratively and examined both within and across participant groups. This approach enabled us to identify shared challenges, role-specific concerns, and system-level constraints that shape communication skills, integration in TVET classrooms. The first theme relates to learner engagement and classroom realities. Teachers reported that many TVET students prefer kinesthetic and hands-on learning modes. Reading and writing heavy language lessons were often perceived as disengaging. Technical teachers also observed that some students were quiet or reserved during oral interaction, despite demonstrating strong technical competence. This suggests that limited verbal participation should not automatically be interpreted as a lack of ability, but rather as a mismatch between expressive preferences and classroom expectations. The second theme concerns teachers' uncertainty in assessing communication skills. Technical teachers, in particular, reported low confidence in evaluating oral presentations and communicative performance. In the absence of clear assessment frameworks, communication was often treated as subjective and difficult to standardize. As a result, it was sometimes positioned as a secondary criterion rather than a core learning outcome. At the systemic level, state education officers highlighted persistent parental perceptions that TVET is intended for academically weaker students. These perceptions were seen to shape learner motivation, self-concept, and willingness to engage in communication-intensive activities. Budgetary constraints further limited efforts to promote TVET, provide professional development, and support large-scale communication initiatives. These systemic factors shape how communication skills are valued and prioritized at school level. Taken together, the findings show that learner engagement challenges, assessment uncertainty, and systemic constraints are interconnected. These challenges reinforce one another, making communication skills integration difficult to sustain without coordinated support. Addressing these issues requires clearer assessment frameworks, targeted professional development, cross-disciplinary collaboration, and stronger institutional backing. In conclusion, integrating communication skills in secondary-level TVET classrooms is a multi-layered process shaped by classroom realities, pedagogical practices, and systemic conditions. By focusing on implementation-level challenges, this study contributes to a more grounded understanding of why communication skills remain difficult to embed despite strong policy emphasis. While grounded in Malaysia, the findings are relevant to other TVET systems facing similar challenges. Thank you very much for your attention.